Da, 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 Mr. K Online.
Hi guys and welcome to How to Write a Story Resolution. Today you are going to be learning about how to write the closing or ending part to your story. Now this is a very important part like any other part of your story, but the reason that this part is important is because this is the part that leaves the lasting impression in the mind of your reader about your writing. Awesome. Anyway, let's get things underway. First of all, what is a resolution? Well, a resolution is the end of your story. It's the conclusion. It is the place where all the answers to any of the questions that popped up in your story are finalized and answered. It's where all the loose ends are tied up. Now, if you wanted to think of this in some metaphoric way, you could think of it in this way. Say a meteor is coming to the Earth, it hits the Earth. That is your climax. That's the most intense moment. But the dust that settles after it would be your resolution. Okay, great. Let's keep moving. Now, a resolution can also be known as a denouement. Now, denouement is originally from French, and guess what? It means to untie, where we're saying that resolution in a story actually is where all the loose ends are tied up. Okay, good. So, just a bit of a contrast there, and another word to actually mean resolution. And finally, the last point here is that, this is a very important part of your story like we mentioned before, because it's the part that leaves the lasting impression in the mind of your reader about your writing. Let's go on. Now, what should you do when you actually write a resolution? Well, number one, you shouldn't make it the most intense part of your story or your conflict, because that's the climax, okay? So make sure you don't do that. Also, don't make it too long, okay? The reader's already got what they've come looking for normally, as in they were looking for the answer to the main problem. They were looking to see the most intense part to the conflict or story. So they've already got that. So don't make it too long, because you'll lose the reader in boredom. Some people say that this part of the story, the resolution, should only be around about 1% of the story, okay? So make it short. Apart from that, don't leave the main question unresolved. It's the resolution. Make sure things get resolved. Okay. And then finally, don't write something that is convenient to get a resolution. What I mean when I say that is that sometimes people have this problem that is still lingering, and they write something that happens that's totally random, that no one could have ever seen coming, and it's very unrealistic, but it solves the problem. If you do that, the reader will feel as if, well, why did the character go through all those trials and all those problems and that journey to get to here when this was going to happen anyway? So they won't be very impressed if you write something that's just a convenient ending. So don't do that. Okay, now let's go on to what should you do for your resolution. Well, number one, make sure things get resolved. It is the resolution, like I said before. Tie up those loose ends, okay? So the main plot and the main question must be answered in at least by your resolution. And also your character's goals. They should be answered by your resolution as well. Beyond that, what else should you do? Well, know where your story is going, because if you know where your story is going, you will know how to do the resolution. What do I mean by that? Well, if it's a once-off narrative that you know will finish here, well, you want to probably tie up all the loose ends, okay? But if you knew that this part of your book, or well, this part of your story, was actually just the end of this narrative, and your narrative was one of a few in, say, a series, then you would probably want to tie up the main question for this book, but then start a new problem in the resolution for the next book or the next story. Excellent. Cool. Let's keep going. Another thing that you would probably want to do is address any subplots. So if you had any little plots going beside, running at the same time beside your main plot or your main conflict or problem, then you want to address them here as well. And when I say address them, you might have a series of stories coming after this one that all relate together. you want to still address those subplots in the resolution, just to let your audience or your reader know that they haven't been forgotten. Let's keep going. What else do you need? Okay, so you could also try this for your resolution, doing something called a circular ending. Now this is where you would basically have a final image that would contrast back to a situation at the beginning of the story. Okay, so there, that way you sort of like tie it back to the beginning, and there's, you know, some sort of like, yeah, connection there. Okay, it adds a little bit more depth to your story. Another thing that you might want to do is write in how a lesson was learned, or basically communicate a lesson has been learned, but don't say this explicitly. What you want to do is probably do it through what do you call it, dialogue and the actions of the character to actually express that a lesson has been learned. The next thing you'd probably want to do is refer to the theme. Now you might have a main theme that you have, some sort of like truth or something that you want to tell the world, and you might want to basically refer back to the theme to sort of like reinforce that that is true, whatever you're trying to say. Okay, but once again, don't say it explicitly. Try and use the actions and the dialogue of your characters to actually get that message across that your theme is true, or what you're trying to say is true. Apart from that, leave the reader satisfied, okay, by fulfilling the promise of a genre. So example, if you were writing a thriller genre, well, you want to leave them satisfied with the resolution, basically saying that the world is a little bit safer, okay? Or if you were writing a romance story, you'd want to leave them with the final resolution that the relationship finished happy, okay? So make sure that you leave the reader satisfied and you fulfill the genre, or the promise of the genre. Cool. The next thing, we're into the summary. So number one, remember the resolution is the end of your story. Some don'ts that you don't want to do when you write a resolution are, number one, don't make it the most intense part of your book or conflict. That's the climax. Number two, don't make it too long. 1% of the story normally. Well, a lot of people do say 1%. Don't leave the main question unresolved. It's the resolution. Resolve it. And the final don't is don't write something that is a convenient ending, right? Make it random. You'll make the reader feel as if, why did the character go through all that pain just to have something totally random or a convenient solution occur? Now, remember the final last thing is our do's. Now, our do's were, number one, we said that one do is make sure you resolve things, okay? Make sure they get solved. Whatever question you had, tie up those loose ends. Number two, know where your story is going. Is it the final story, or is it one story in a series? Also, address any subplots, any little stories that have been going along with the main plot or the main conflict or problem. Try and resolve those, or at least address them. Also, you could use a circular ending where a final image at the end refers back to an image at the beginning of your story. Or you could use a lesson learned. But if you were communicating the lesson was learned, make sure you do it through character dialogue and character actions. And don't explicitly say it. Because, yeah, that's sort of like, I don't know, treating your audience like they're dummies a little bit. But anyway, let's keep going. The next one, refer to the theme. So make sure that you're at the end in the resolution talking about or having your character do actions or dialogue that basically reinforce your message, okay, that you want to actually say to the world through this book. Then the next one, leave the reader satisfied. Make sure you're true to the genre. Like we said about the thriller, you know, you want to make sure that you leave the reader feeling the world is a little bit safer. and then finally the end. Thanks guys for watching. Have a great day. Bye. Thanks for watching one of my videos. If you've enjoyed the content or you just want to show your support, please just click the subscribe button down below. You hitting the subscribe button lets me know that you'd like to see more content from me. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Subscribe.